I think my perspective is the training effort is going to be the penultimate limiter of growth.
So this is from Wes. He says, last podcast on volume and intensity was great. There was discussion on experimenting to see what works best for you. What would be a structured approach for testing to see which produces the most growth? Basically, he's asking, how can he figure out what works best for him? And he also mentions that he just purchased Fortitude. So he's going to be a Fortitude trainee, it sounds like.
So the thing that is like so lost, I think, nowadays with the, volume is the driver of muscle growth and that kind of thing, which, the evidence sort of points to, is what had happened in those pictures. I think are gone now because they just got moved away from the server on intense muscle with DC training back in the day, where guys were just like literally going into the gym and they were just saying no to the idea of not growing by going in the gym, and every friggin' set that they would do, the rest pause sets, the straight sets, the Widowmakers, they bury themselves and progress like micro load every single time. And you go from a 315 squat for 10 to a 405 squat for 10 in a year and a half, you're going to see it on your legs.
Yeah, you will.
It's just going to happen. There's really everyone's going to be there's going to be some variability in the relative growth that you get from those performance increases, but there's just no way around it. And I think what people miss, and I've been guilty of this, as guilty as basically anyone I know, because I spent like 10 years I still probably do too much because it's fun to train. I like training. Is that the idea is that you grow when you recover, stimulate, don't annihilate. There's a million ways to say it. And if you're coming into the gym and you're fresh and you got those days where you're like, man, the weights are going to get owned. Gravity is my bitch today.
Yes, sir.
You feel like Derek Osland, El Gravito, and like there's fucking nothing's going to stop you.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be, because then you're going to do shit you've never done before. You keep on coming back into the gym that recovered, time in and time out, where you just can't wait to destroy those sets. You're going to grow. And that's the relatively low volume approach and a higher frequency approach in the case of DC training as well, that I think people aren't really as aware of. And some of it's because the training has to be really, really hard. You have to have that kind of mentality to make that work.
You really do.
But with Fortitude training, though, I've built it in to the system. And I intended this to happen. And I hear it time and time again now when people actually do it, is they look at things on paper. And if they execute the set types the way I've set them out, for their ability to train with high effort, the number of reps reserved, they can actually take things close to what a true failure point would be if their absolute life depended on it. You have to train hard. You just have to, doing the set types that way.
Yeah.
So, but it's all dependent on the person. It's not like you're trying to get people aren't, being told to do something they can't do. They're just executing the set types in a way that just requires that they have maximal effort levels, or relatively high effort levels, which goes beyond what they're used to doing. And with that, you can grow plenty well with just volume tier 1 or 2 easily. So start with that, and then add, as needed. And chances are, look Dorian Yates, for example, of someone who had to bring things back. The bigger he got, the harder he had to train, over and over. And because of, he went from name the hack squat that he might have done, or a leg press or what have you, those things increased. So that the inroads under recovery that he was making also went up. So he had to drop things back in order to get the stimulus from a set. It had to be so crazy and difficult that one of my dog, Suki, is. You hear that?
Oh no!
No, she's sleeping. She's whimpering in her sleep.
Yeah, she's chasing a rabbit. I bet
it's something.
Or an alligator. I forgot you guys are in Florida.
She runs from those. They know better. They have good. Luckily, they get away from snakes and alligators. But a rabbit, be all over that, or a cat, without a doubt. So he had to peel things back because he had to train so hard with such heavy weights that he had to do fewer of those or less of those over time in order to recover from it. So that's sort of the paradox of training versus effort that I think we may have touched upon in that previous podcast.
So discussion on experimenting with what works best for you. Does he mean, though, like what exercises work best for you?
Can you throw up the question again so I
Sure.
can see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's having a really good dream or a bad dream over there. One of the two.
Yeah. I think she's a good one. So cute.
She sounds like a mogwai or some sort of.
She's a little gremlin. She's my little brown gremlin. Yeah. She was my mogwai. I call her that all the time.
We also had a bunch of people saying hi, including Nick Weary joined us.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. Right.
said,
Nick, it's almost time, brother. I'm trying to, we're hoping we'll finish up so I can get on and watch Nick damage.
I got two for you. We'll run through them like really quick after this.
Okay. So yeah, he's specifically talking about volume and intensity. So the other thing that is important, experimenting is like, how do you like to train? Do you really like to go for broke and take things to their penultimate end? Is that what do you find some joy in that?
Yeah.
So there's going to be this inverse relationship. The harder you train, the less volume you'll be able to recover from.
Yeah.
So if you prefer, like I've got someone I just set up on a program, and because he hasn't been structured in the past really at all so much, we're just doing what I've mentioned here before in the podcast, is just taking 3 exercises, kind of a DC training style approach, just 3 exercises that are go-to exercises for each muscle group.
Yeah.
He goes in, warms up, gets ready, and tests himself 1 set, safely to failure, and he rotates through each of those like an ABC format, and just tries to progressively overload on that first exercise for a given muscle group. And then he trains, auto-regulates all the way through. So he can do more reps or more sets, and leave a few more reps in the tank if he feels like he wants to.
Yeah.
But he's not in there like thinking, oh Jesus, like every set to all out failure, like this is just weighing on me, like just like pulling my fingernails off. This is just terrible.
Yeah.
If that isn't your mindset, but some progressive overload will work. So in that case, you've got the progressive overload, but you're also making sure you're appealing to what you enjoy with the training, which is getting a pump, getting in your groove, getting your mojo working, what have you. So your volume is going to be dependent, and your approach is dependent upon what you like psychologically and what's sustainable, but still with that progressive overload. So if anything, I think most people are probably doing maybe too much in many, many cases, at least the people who are listening here. And maybe not focusing enough on food either. That's the thing. After 2 or 3 years, your training is you still got your foot on the accelerator, but you have to have gas in the tank.
Yeah.
So, you can be the best driver in terms of like you're formulating, periodizing all of your training, and you got this really nice, system set up. I've got a Instagram post on the horse and the cart, and the horse is effort and the cart are all those other things related to training. You have to have a well-fed horse that's pushing really hard, and then you can make use of how you're periodizing things and your exercise order and your rest intervals and your set types and all the other kind of fun things. Yeah. But the horse has to be motivated and well-fed, and so that's a training system that you like, and enough food to promote growth, and then training hard enough, because at some point in time your training efforts are going to, I think my perspective is the training effort is going to be the penultimate limiter of growth. So if you get to where you're simply like, you're just not willing to dig into those sets where you have to grind at a new level to get an extra rep, your strength is just staying the same and you're not willing to progress. And that's going to be reflective too of how much you're eating and how well you're recovering.
Yeah.
But your effort level has to keep pace with that.
Yeah.
And it has to be really, really high continually for years on end to produce that growth. So if that's not there, no matter what you're doing with all the other, fapping, as they might call it, you're fapping away. If you're in the UK, that's all you're doing. You're just pissing in the wind to some degree. If you're not training hard enough to make use of all those the strategies are viable. Don't get me wrong. Like finding the right exercise and all those other things, super important. But if you just find the right, imagine you just don't take anything close to failure. Well, you're not creating the stimulus. So anyway, that hopefully that helps. So start low, get the system that matches your psychology, and less is more. Get the most from the least, and keep it simple.
Yeah,
Is the way I think.